Hello and welcome. Today I'm here with Leonie Dawson of LeonieDawson.com. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Kerry. It's so lovely to chat.
So exciting. So I'm going to start off just by letting people know how Leonie and I connected and how long we have been connected, because it's quite a long time. We've got quite a lot of different interlinks together. So I first came across Leonie back in, I think it was 2008, and that was on Twitter. Back when people used to use Twitter quite a lot.
And it was popular back then.
Right? And I did one of Leonie's very first e-courses, which was about, decluttering your home and energetically decluttering it. I thought it was great. It's the first e-course I had done at that time as well. So it was a really good introduction. And then, it was the next year actually that you put out your workbooks, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah. And then we next, I think, crossed paths in 2012 when I joined B School. You had already been a part of that B School community and sort of linked back in. And then I ended up doing 6 months of mentoring with Leonie, which was beautiful, of course. Very fortunate. I know for lots of people listening will be like, oh, so annoying that you got to do that.
I think you're there's been so few, because that was the last time I've done private. It was the last time I did private, I think. So yeah. I think there's at least less than 20 people who've done long-term private coaching with me.
How privileged am I? So that was really great. And then, I did a little bit of kinesiology with you as well. So over a period of time.
Well, a little bit, a lot.
Quite a bit. So yeah, we've had lots of different links together. But what we're going to be talking about today is goals and intention setting, specifically around Leonie's workbook. So I have the beautiful Shining Year books here. So I've got the life one and I've also got the business one. So in a second, I'm going to ask Leonie about how you use them, and because they're just this amazing system really for pulling out your goals in all different areas, but not just pulling them out, because everyone knows it's one thing to set a goal, it's another thing to actually achieve a goal. And so I'm going to get Leonie to explain to us her process, and then I've got some questions that my people were really curious to hear about. So would you mind starting us off by just letting us know, I know this started because you created this for yourself initially.
Yeah.
And then you realized, this is actually a pretty useful resource. Other people might want to use this. And we've got a link with the video to the resource. And so, take us through, now that you've got these, how do you work through it? Do you do it in chunks of time? How frequently do you go back to them? Talk us through.
Sure. So, the thing that people are always express the most amount of shock about is the fact that I use my own books. They're like, I just love that you do the workbooks too. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course I use my damn workbooks. They're for me. Y'all are just lucky that I share them with you all.
Exactly.
I created them just for me when I was pregnant with my first kid, and I looked at it and I thought, this is really cool. I think people will like this. And I thought maybe 10 people would buy the first one. And I had over 1,000 sales that first year in the space of a month, and it's just kind of kept on exploding since then. So now over 250,000 people worldwide have used them, and it's a full multi-million-dollar company to print and self-publish and distribute these books every single year. So it's very much a labor of love, and it's a really beautiful labor because they're still my favorite and dearest things. So this is the 8th year that we've done them. There's the life book and the business book. So I recommend, if you've got a business, to do both, because it's really, really important for you to still have a life outside of your business.
It's so true.
So many people are like, oh no, I'm just going to work on the business. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You still need to feel good in your life, and your life needs, your business starts from your life.
Well, so often I see clients say, if they do focus excessively on their business, well, first of all, we both know about burnout. So you can totally create burnout, but you just lose your enjoyment for the business. A lot of people will focus tons of energy on their business because they're enjoying it. It's a source of fulfillment. But it doesn't work like that forever.
No, it does not. and then you've got to work out a new way of doing life and business. I realise I look incredibly like an Australian bogan right now with my husband's flannelette shirt on. Yeah,
I think it's perfect.
I know.
Cultural.
It's magical. It's magical. I always laugh when I turn up to video calls and like people have got their hair done nicely and stuff, and I'm like,
what?
Was there a memo that I missed here? Because I am always in my pajamas with my bed hair. Like, this is how we roll. There's never going to be a polished Leonie.
But I think this is obviously why people really resonate with you and love you, because you are so happy to be yourself. And I think that gives so many people permission to feel like they can just be themselves, whoever that is, whether it's polished or not polished or quirky, creative, whatever.
Totally. Just do it your way. So the way that I personally use the workbooks, I mean, first and foremost, there's no wrong way to use these workbooks. The only wrong way to use these workbooks if you don't open them and use them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me personally, I always start by working on the life one first, because it all begins with life. And I do the closing ceremony in that one first, and then I do the closing ceremony in the business one. So because, everything's top of mind for me about the last year, a big part of this, so the first part of this book is to do a full review of your previous year, what worked, what didn't, what sucked, what needed to change, all of the big spiritual lessons that you've learned, the personal lessons. It's really important to have that check-in. And I know so many people, they've had a hard 2016, from a planetary level. We've had a bit of a hard 2016 as well. Cough, cough, Trump, fuck you, cough, cough. Sorry, just a bit of a dry throat.
I get it.
Yeah. So a lot of people are just like, fuck you, 2016, I never want to think about you ever again. But it's actually really, really critical for us to do that mining and to excavate the lessons out of that time. So, yeah.
I totally agree, and I have started doing that. And it's so nice when you look back as well, to celebrate and remember the things that went really well, and just you can easily forget. So there's that, and then also to acknowledge the challenges. And of course, some years there's more challenges than other years. And I think you're right. There's a lot of people right now who just get rid of this year. I just want to start again. But I bet when you do that reflective piece, you'll look back and go, actually, a lot of this stuff was really good, or it needed to happen, or I learned a lot from it, or whatever.
Really. One of the hardest years I've ever had was my second pregnancy. I had a chronic illness called hyperemesis gravidarum, and I did not want to do my yearly check-in at the end of that year. I was like, that was bullshit. There was nothing good that came out of that. But I kept on sitting with it, kept sitting with the questions, and I realised how deeply I had been changed for the better.
Yeah.
From what I'd gone through, and how my marriage was so much stronger because he'd been such an incredible carer for me, and how I had learned how to be empathic in a new way with people with chronic illness. And we got a baby at the end, which is a miracle in itself. So when I really did the time to sit with it, it actually was a real blessing. So that kind of shifts you quite deeply. And then I start planning out the goals for the year ahead. I'd start swapping between the two of them, because as I'm working, as I'm in that space, I'll think of a new idea of what I want to create. I'll usually start with the life stuff, but then when I have business ideas, I just pop them straight in there as well. And I always, for me, the deadline, my working time on them is quite short, because I know if I let it go for too long, then it just won't be finished. So I will end up starting it around Boxing Day, and my deadline is usually to finish it by January 15th.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So you do it before the end of the year. I love that time of year, actually. After Christmas, it's always this dead zone. Late at least, everything's closed. It's closed till halfway through January. So it's it's a perfect time to bunker down and go in.
It is. It's such perfect dreaming space time. So yes, I tend to. I've never been. I know lots and lots of people, especially in the workbook group. If you haven't gone to the workbook group for the Facebookers, It's amazing. There's, I think, nearly 16,000 people in there.
Wow.
So a lot of them have started it already. I just haven't been able to do, like, I've never been able to do it before Christmas because I've still got so much shit to do.
Yeah. And so then during the year, how frequently would you go back and just check in?
Sure. So what I ended up doing was creating the companion diary planner,
yes,
which makes you do monthly goal check-ins and makes you set weekly, your weekly goals and your daily priorities and all that sort of stuff as well. So that's actually been really key for me, and I fill out that monthly review every single month, and that means I have to go and reflect back. I would say the bare minimum to review your workbooks is quarterly, so every 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it would probably be best to do it monthly.
Yeah. And I find it's just great to have, because this is my last year's life one. I do have the business one as well, but I don't know if you can see, but there's like writing on nearly every page. But I find it's really good to have it in a spot where I can see it, and then I'll just pick it up and I'll read through, and then sometimes I might want to add to something else, or I read something else. And it was only recently that I, found that I had written the goal to attract 30 participants to my Align and Attract program during 2016, and there's been 98 now.
Yes, nailed it.
I know. So I guess that brings me to my next point. How do you choose like the size of goals that you are wanting to choose? Because you can go like that, go one way where you make like set goals that are really, really far from where you are now and would actually be very, very difficult to achieve, which is actually how I would have felt about that goal at the start of the year. Or you can kind of set goals that are like really like so easy that they really are just your next step anyway. Like, where do you tend to find your balance, and how do you decide?
I tend to do, I tend to over dream anyway. And that's okay. That's totally okay, because I'm still learning what will happen in a year. And plus, I like writing it down, because if it happens, hooray! Yeah. And if it doesn't, I think this is really important, is to still have like love and compassion for yourself.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that resilience as well, isn't it? Of just like, it's totally okay to set a really big goal, and it's totally okay if it doesn't come to fruition, because you probably got a lot further along the way than you would have, or than we were. Totally.
So you have to do that inner work where you're like, you haven't tied your identity to your goal.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. So that you don't end up, disappointed or beating yourself up. You just sort of see it as a bit of like a challenge or an experiment. Like, can I achieve these goals? Or
Yeah. And I also, I like to sprinkle in easy wins into the book as well. So kind of smaller projects, especially in the life book. Because I'm not going to be able to like remake over my whole life in the space of 1 year. But there's definitely things I can do that will improve everything. So, for example, in my life book, I'll have, go to the dentist once a year. I'll go to like all the boring life admin stuff that you can forget about otherwise. I just got my all of my moles checked and my skin done, and it was written in my book, and I just felt this huge sense of achievement. And I told the doctor about it, and she was like, "You go, girl! You're really nailing this life admin." It was just so much fun.
That's so cute. And I know you've got that list as well of like the 100. Here we go.
100 things to do.
The 100 things to do, which I haven't started on yet, obviously for 2017. But I guess that's a really good spot to put your quick wins, isn't it?
Big time. So there's a lot of quick wins in there. And then I think about like yearly traditions as well. So like I never used to be much into Christmas, but after I've had kids, I'm kind of like, what sort of things do I want them to experience? So we have an advent calendar every year. We go see the Christmas lights every year. I write a Christmas letter every year. We bake Christmas cookies. And it's just fun to write those in my book. And, because by the time December comes around, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm so kind of busy. And then I think, no, I do want to create these memories for my kids.
That's just such a smart way to do it, isn't it? Like, whilst you're clear-headed, and it's like, what rituals do I want to have? What traditions am I creating? And that does take some pre-thought a lot of the time.
It does. So I'm really grateful that sane me made some good choices back then.
So clever. Right, let me hit you up with some of these questions that my community has shared. So the first one, this person said they know that the options really when you're setting goals are kind of endless and everything's possible, and they have trouble setting supportive goals. So the overall question was, how do you set a goal when you are unclear of the intentions when all is always possible? So how do you come out of that space of like anything is possible to then actually getting some concrete, right, here are my tangible goals?
Sure. So, I mean, yeah, everything is possible, but doesn't mean like I want to go out and fornicate with a dog on the corner of the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or everything is possible, but doesn't also mean that I want to, like, that I could do everything all at once, because even though everything is possible, we live in a physical universe with limitations and boundaries.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is, yeah, everything is possible, but what is it that you actually want?
Totally. And what's coming through to me as I'm thinking about this as well, it comes back to priorities, and it comes back to your values, like what's really important to you. And that's going to help you decide and define, what do I want to create goals around?
Absolutely. Because, in my mind, like, I definitely go, oh, I want to create all of these things. But I'm so grateful that my husband is kind of like, I am like the huge dreamer, and he is so firmly of the planet, and he'll be like, honey, do you think that's really going to be doable in that amount of time without you totally burning yourself out? And I'm like, you shut your mouth. You're right. Yeah,
it's so true. And I think it comes with self-knowledge and awareness and personal experience. So you could say, next year I want to write and publish 10 books or 2 books. But then if you've ever tried to publish one, or in your case you have published one, you might go, publishing 1 book in a year would be a lot.
Yes. Completely. And, like, here's the thing, like, there's no way to fuck this up. Like, write it down, and you'll find out at the end of the year how much you were able to achieve.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? Going, what's inspiring me now? Put it all down. There's nothing to stop you. And through the process of doing that and having to actually make them concrete and writing them down, you're going to gain more of that self-awareness, which will probably refine the process for you next year.
Totally. And, I'm still, like, learning what a year looks like. I'm still learning how time works. Like, Jesus Christ, how much can I do?
How many years have you been on this physical planet?
34, and I'm still learning this one. So, like, I look back at, like, past books, and I'm like, Jesus, Leonie, like, that was real keen of you to put all of that in there. But you got, like, 75% of that done. So, like, champion. And I'm probably a little bit more pragmatic now about, okay, well, this is my energy levels. I still have 2 small children. This is kind of what I want to do without burning out. I probably still set goals that are overreaching, but that's fine.
Yeah, totally. All right, well, let's go into the next question. This person said they've got no, sort of related really, they've got no trouble setting goals, but people often tell them that they set too many for the year, and they don't realize until they experience that firsthand. So all the things involved to actually do it, or they don't meet their own expectations. And so how do I know if I'm setting achievable goals?
Set them and find out.
Yeah. So it's just like using your own self and using your own life as the experiment, isn't it?
Yeah, really. And some years you'll be able to achieve more and some you won't, because, I've kind of learned as I've gotten like a little bit older, now I'm out of my roaring early 20s, that you actually can't control everything. Like, you can't control your physical health, and you can't control what life stuff happens to you, and each one has its own energetic cost. And we just get to roll with it.
I really like that. It's going, well, I can set the goal and I can have plans, but things can happen. I can't control every aspect.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
And there's a sort of a follow-on question with that. Like, they ask, should I map out the tasks within a goal first before I set the goal?
No, because you need to set the goal first.
Yeah.
You can't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah. So it sounds like set the goal. And
Yes.
then it sounds like that's an optional extra step if you already know that's where you get tripped up and you don't think through what's actually involved.
Yeah.
And in fact, you do guide us through that in the workbooks anyway, of breaking it down into actionable items.
Yes.
So use your workbook definitely for that. But if you already know, I go from the big goal that I can't break it down, just know that that's what I need to do. I need to break it down. And what does that entail? Every single item that needs to happen so I can get to there. And then you'll know after that, is it achievable?
Totally. And I think as well, like, if you're also the type that feels like you need to, like, know every single step and that stops you from actually achieving the goal, maybe just give yourself, like, you can only do the first 10 steps.
Yeah.
And then you can only do one thing at a time. And then once you've hit those 10 steps, then you write down the next 10 steps.
Yes, and if you find yourself like that person who's perennially foggy and like a bit confused or whatever, one thing I do recommend, you set the goal and then you can use my alignment process, which you can get from the Align and Track program or from the DIY kinesiology kit if you don't have a business, and use that goal to do an alignment around it and use my chakra cards to find out what is blocking you and then shift it. And then that can help you to create the clarity you need to then break it down and to think about it more clearly. Because if you're feeling very unclear, the whole process is going to feel a bit muddy.
Yes, that's very true. And I just outsource that now. As in, I'm like, sweet Jesus, this is not working. Book in with Kerry. Book in with Hero.
It's funny you said outsource, because I outsource sometimes in a different way where I'll just be like, right, guides, just get back to me when you figured out how to make that happen.
Dude, I might practice that one.
Well, I had to do that with the book because it's like I don't really have time to really break all this down. So just let me know when you've got some content for me, and I'm happy to show up and write it, and I'm happy to do everything required, but I don't have time to create an entire project plan around this. So could you get the book writing department and the marketing department and the PR department working on it, and just talk to me when you've got, I just want to know what needs to happen when. That's it.
I love it. It's like your slave labor force.
Well, they're like my little spiritual corporation. So can't have them sitting around with nothing slaves. To do.
Yeah, the divine slave.
Oh, bless them. I love them. Okay, the next question was, how do you stay connected to your goals, but also practice non-attachment? I think this goes back to what you already said around, you can't control everything.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to hear your thoughts on feeling super connected, but staying open and non-attached.
Totally. And, I definitely have had to do the inner work around this because I will over-attach my identity to my goals. And so it's been like this lesson again and again and again that I am not my goals and I'm not my achievements. It's a fun way to spend my time, sure, but it doesn't equate to me. And I remember earlier this year, I kind of had this huge kind of breakdown/breakthrough where I was convinced for months that if I didn't have the amount of success that I have now with, being an international best-selling author and, CEO of 2 multi-million-dollar brands, that nobody would be interested in me as a person. I just felt so energetically wrapped up in my identity in that. And I kept on working with it and getting therapy sessions and clearing the space for it, and had, a few miracles happen. And then I remembered, that's right. This is who I am again. This is, my soul is the really precious thing, and everything else is, an outcome of those actions, but it's not me. It's not my identity.
I love that, because I think that comes up for all of us at different times, and different situations in your life will highlight it. So it can be ill health. So it's like all of a sudden you can't achieve so much, or you don't have energy. And so who are you when you can't do all the things? And being pregnant or having babies, same thing. Who are you when that identity changes? And then if you have a successful business, very easy, and I did this as well earlier in my business, to attach to that success of your business or how the business is growing, and to feel like that's a reflection, that's, your self-worth and validation can get really linked up in that. And then if, anything changes, that can really throw you about. So I think it's an ongoing learning for all of us. It is perhaps knowing it's like everyone does go through it, and just continue to do your best, and continue to remind yourself, this is not who I am. Achieving these goals is not who I am.
Yeah, really. Anyway, I love that, that's such a great problem to have, isn't it? Like, oh my goodness, I've had so much success in this realm, and now I have to learn how to detach from that. And also, okay, like some things haven't gone the way that I planned. How can I detach from that as well? And, it's still important for me to create and dream those visions onto the earth and make those dreams of mine come true, but do it in a way that doesn't sell my own self-love.
And what I'm hearing when you're saying that as well is that what you want and the goals that you have are not always going to grow in a linear direction. So it may not be the case, like you're talking about in a company sense, it may not be the case that you want to go from this revenue to this revenue to this revenue to this revenue. At some point it might be like, I'm choosing something different, and the revenue is going to drop. But this is the area of my life that I'm actually investing more time. Do you know what I mean? Like it can really be quite movable.
Totally. It's fun.
So interesting. The final question was around someone in my community asked, they said they don't have any problem setting goals as such, but it's the achieving of them that they find is more difficult. So how do you actually go about, once you've created the goal, how do you go about supporting yourself to achieve it?
Sure. So something new that we included in the books last year was the magical mountain maps. So there's 3 magical mountain maps, and you take those big goals and you cut them down into smaller, smaller doable pieces. So if you think about a mountain is not something that you can just step onto. Like it does not take one step to get to the top of a mountain. There's actually a whole path of different tasks to get to the top of that mountain. So really detailing those out and making them achievable, so that you can do, step by step by step. Then setting deadlines for each of those parts. Like you could pretend like you're on Everest, and so to get to base camp, base camp is after you've done this task, and then to base, whatever fucking Everest camp 1.
Neither of us have climbed Everest. I don't know.
It's not like I'm ever going to climb a fucking mountain. Like, no, get fucked. That's not the kind of goal that I'm ever going to set this life. Right, a mountain.
Everything is possible, but...
Everything is possible, but no, not that. And fuck you, marathons. That's not going to happen either. I also think making sure that you're surrounding yourself with other people who are also setting big goals and achieving them, because the vast majority of people don't.
Yeah. The
vast majority of people are just kind of swimming along in life, reacting and being a victim to everything that happens, and be like, oh God, woe is I. No, you need to really discern and surround yourself with other people who are doing the same thing as you. Be in the workbook group. Find local workbook meetups. There are so many of them, and really, really cool chicks that are meeting up once a month or once a quarter. They share their goals, be publicly accountable with each other, and say, "This is what I want to achieve. This is what I'm going to achieve in the next, 6 weeks or whatever." Have a get shit done buddy that knows what goals you're working on, and check in with them every single day and go, "This is what I'm working on. I'll check in 50 minutes once I've finished it."
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's as well just recognizing this is important to me making it a priority, having it somewhere you can see it, and continuing to ask yourself, what can I do today, or what can I do this week that is going to contribute to this goal, not just assuming it's going to happen by itself.
Amen. Yeah, really.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, were you going to add something then?
Oh, I'm just going to say goals don't happen by themselves. You actually have to dream and birth them into the world. And it's not just like going, I've written it and now it will be manifested, like law of attraction bullshit. No, like fuck off. You have to work for it.
Yeah, have to actually, so break, if you don't know the steps, what's the next step? And actually take that step. And if you have trouble with that aspect of the process, you really need to figure out how to get out of your own way, do an alignment, do some more work, reflecting in the workbooks, but just do whatever needs to happen so that you can actually be backing yourself and supporting yourself and be on your own team.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yay. Thank you so much, Leonie. That was awesome. I know people are going to absolutely love it. You can get a copy of the workbooks at, I've got a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly dot, does it go dot? Anyway, it's bit.ly/Leonie workbooks to make it easy. So thank you so much. And yeah, I'm so excited to see what we all create in the coming year.
Amen to that. Let's make it a really, really good, shiny one, because 2016 can go fuck itself.
Thanks so much.